Alright everybody, welcome back! So Gaishin's latest update for War Thunder, Air Superiority, actually dropped over a month ago now. And it's been enough time for the meta to settle and for everything to figure out where it is, so I figured it's the perfect time to go ahead and make this video, because there has been a lot of talk about the F-15. It's also been long enough for Gaishin to push out some battle rating changes, which were highly controversial and, in my opinion, pretty stupid, and I'll get to that later on. But that's besides the point. So let's start out with what exactly got us here in the first place. So this update brought with us 4 new top-tier airframes for a lot of different nations, but of course the F-15 in particular came to the US, Japan, and Israel. Now I just want to get something out of the way. All the F-15s are good planes. They are great top-tier planes. They are the best in their respective nations. Now of course the F-15J could be argued as being better than the American and Israeli ones, which are identical to each other, at least from the top kit. The Israeli one gets a better, tier 1 missile, but that's besides the point. The F-15J is heavier, but it does get more fuel, and the AAM-3 does have more range than the AIM-9M. I do just want to say, it's not 40 Gs really. Like, sure, it theoretically could hit that, but in reality, it barely pulls more, if at all, than the AIM-9M. And to be honest, when I've been using it, I have felt basically no difference to the AIM-9M, besides a little bit of extra range, and even then, pretty much every shot I fire with the AIM-3 and 9M would have hit as well, so it's kind of a moot point for me. Now their sidewinders, and of course the AIM-3, are very good. The 9M is one of the best IR missiles in the game. I personally prefer the R-73, but the 9M is still very capable and is great for those, high altitude shots on unsuspecting people way below you, which is one of the ways to get a lot of kills right now at top tier. Now, the downside right now, at least, to the F-15 are the radar missiles. It only gets 4 Sparrows, and Sparrows are not very good. I don't know what they did to AIM-7s, but they aren't handling very well at the moment. They are missing a ton of shots. They're incredibly easy to roll, but you do at least get 4 of them, and they will be getting some kills. The problem with the F-15s, though, is that despite that airframe and survivability advantage over the previous aircraft, it does have twice the countermeasures that the F-16C has, it hasn't really gotten to use it. The combination of SU-27 and Gripen has been incredibly detrimental to the F-15. Partially, of course, because of the player base, and partially just because the top-tier meta does not really prioritize flight performance and individual player skill right now. 16 versus 16 players does not allow for that. The priority is killing as many of the enemy as quickly as possible, and the F-15 can still do that, but it doesn't do it nearly as efficiently as something like an SU-27, which can carry up to 6 R-27 ERs. And while that can be negated if people fly low, as you can see right here, there are still a ton of people who are flying high. And in these shots just like this right here, an ER would have made all the difference. The combination of HMD and R-73s is also incredibly vital in these fur balls, because just being able to, fly through, even if you're not really turning, and just beam off 3 or 4 R-73s at different targets in a rapid succession and have multiple of them connect can make all the difference for your team. And it's not even just the SU-27 that's been the issue. The Gripen has been an absolute menace. 700 countermeasures, incredible flight performance, and it gets 6 of the AIM-9Ms, which, let's face it, are the most effective missile on the F-15. Sure, you do get the AIM-7M, but the Gripen can just roll and dodge your AIM-7M. So having more AIM-9Ms, at least right now, is a massive priority. So this combination of the SU-27 beating it missile-wise and the Gripen beating it, flight model and survivability-wise, has left the F-15 in a little bit of a rough spot. And it also doesn't help that a lot of the players who are playing it don't really know how to use its performance to their advantage. And I mean, to be honest, ARB doesn't really incentivize that kind of gameplay right now in the first place. So that leads us to where we are today, where now they've implemented battle rating changes where they moved the maximum battle rating to 12.7, which is awesome. They've moved up all the stuff with the IRCCM missiles, all the R-73s, the R-27 ETs, pretty much everything else. But they've left the F-15 at 12.3. And many of you all might be asking, well, why is this a problem? Well, there's a couple things. Well, first of all, it just has 12.7 flight performance, and the kit is also 12.7 worthy. I don't care if it may not be as meta right now as something like the Gripen or the SU-27. It still needs to go to 12.7. It is definitely better than the MiG-29 SMT and the MiG-29G and the Barak and the F-16C, and those all went to 12.7. This needs to as well. It is incredibly oppressive in these 11.3 games. When I was playing the EJ Kai, almost every game I was getting up tiers to either 12.0 or 12.3, and when I did get into those 12.3 lobbies, oh boy, the F-15s were a absolute powerhouse. Sure, they may not be the top dog, they do lose the Gripen and sometimes the SU-27 depending on the situation, but it is still a very, very viable airframe with viable missiles. It should be at top tier to give the lower BR stuff some breathing room. The F-15 went from debatably underpowered to absolutely overpowered just because of the consistency where you'll be facing this thing in 11.3s. And now, instead of being in your MiG-23ML and having to fight them, but at least having some SU-27s to back up, the F-15 is the uncontested king of those 12.3, 11.3 matches with nothing to challenge it. So Gaijin kind of made a bad situation worse here, and this isn't the first time they've done this. The first major video that I made that actually got a lot of views was, the F-14 problem in War Thunder. And one thing I covered there still applies here. Gaijin uses a very useful tool called quantitative matchmaking. And what this means is that, let's say you're playing an 11.7 aircraft, right? And you get a maximum up tier to 12.7. They don't want you to fight full teams of 12.7, so you can only fight up to 4 12.7s. So that means if you're playing, let's just say you're F-14, and you happen to get a full up tier, which is unlikely, but let's just say you do for argument's sake, you can only fight up to 4 SU-27s or MiG-29 SMTs or Gripens, right? Which is awesome. The problem is that limit does not apply for 12.3s in that lobby. So that means that you can be in an 11.7, and sure, you only fight 4 SU-27s, but the entire enemy team can be F-15s, and there is nothing that can happen. Your entire team could be 11.7s with just a couple 12.7, and it will not matter, and you will get absolutely slaughtered because you have an aircraft that has 12.7 performance, but is at a lower BR and so doesn't suffer from those restrictions. And this is just an ongoing example of the major problem that Gaijin has, where they pretty much only look at stats. They don't look at the actual performance of the aircraft in the game, which in this case, the F-15 is being affected by both what it's fighting and the players, because there are a ton of inexperienced players who are like, ooh, F-15. They buy an F4S and they grind all the way up to the F-15. They get it and they do poorly in it, and then the stats show, okay, well, the F-15 must be doing poorly because it's bad, right? No, it's a great airplane. That's pretty much the end of my rant. I appreciate y'all sticking around for that. Now, if you did, I just wanted to say I recently hit 15,000 subscribers, and I am incredibly grateful for that. So I just wanted to do something for y'all. I realized I haven't actually, said much about myself. So if you're curious about anything, I'm going to be doing a Q&A for 15K, probably my next video. If you want to go ahead and leave any questions you have down in the comments down below, I already made a community post, but either one is fine. I'll be pulling from both. So feel free to leave any questions or comments you have for me. I'll cover as many of them as I can, although I will probably group them into, similar type of questions if I have to. In any case, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I try to not do too many of these rant videos, but it's incredibly frustrating whenever Gaijin make stupid decisions just like this. But I'll catch y'all next time, so go ahead and leave me some questions. Peace, y'all.